Alright, good morning. We're going to set up a large format border and title block. This is on an 18 by 24 sheet, and we'll do a typical half-inch border, and I'll show you how to add in the title block as well. This will be part of your final exam as well too, so you want to make sure you keep up and have an accurate border and title block. So I'm going to make sure I go ahead and get my paper all taped down with my T-square. Get my corners taped down. Now we're going to go ahead and mark 1/2 inch on the corners. I'm going to use a red marker for this so you guys see. Now you should be using a 2H or HB. Alright, so I'm going to mark my 1/2 inch. Marking a 1/2 inch off of every corner. And if you use a T-square, you're going to find that you'll actually be able to reuse, once again, using a straight edge to do half the measuring. But I'll show this the long way. Okay, now you're going to connect those dots using your T-square. Connecting all my dots. Now you'll notice I did run out of screen, but all I'm doing is measuring that 1/2 inch and marking it all the way around. Take your time to make sure it's right. So the first thing you'll have is a nice border formed all the way around. Now the next step is we're going to put a 1/2 inch in down here on the bottom for the border, or for the title block. So I'm going to go ahead, mark a 1/2 inch down here, mark a 1/2 inch over here, and I'm going to connect that. So now what you've got is you've got this large border area down here. Well, our font is going to be that tall, so we just want to divide this in the same way that we divided the book. Except this time we're going to take, and we should be able to divide this into thirds. Right, so let's see here. So you should have 23 inches, right? That means this total distance is 23 inches. We're going to make 6 inches, 6 inches, and then we're going to come over here 1 inch. So that's going to be your main border. So I'm going to go ahead and mark, or your main title block subdivisions. Mark 6 inches here. Go over. I'm going to mark 6 inches again. And then I'm going to come from the right side 1 inch. So we have our 1 inch line and our 6 inch lines. And then what we'll do is we're going to divide this into half. And we'll leave this how it is, and we're going to show over here, you're going to show your class name. So over here would be Intro to Drafting. Down here, you're going to have the name of your cube design. And then down here, you're going to have your name. And then over here you're going to have the date. So the date we'll have is alright. Now that's your basic title block for the exam. The next thing we want to do is we want to create an interior border where we're going to pose or place the front view. We need a top view portion, and then we're also going to have a side view portion. And you're going to lay these out by blocking in the total height, width, and depth of the object. But before we get there, we need to go ahead and make a another half inch border on the inside of this paper. So I'm going to go ahead and mark another half inch on both sides. And I'm basically just making a whole other border again. And then I'm going to connect all those, half inch all the way around. This is going to be done with a very light pencil, okay? Very, very light pencil. Because you don't want these lines to pop out. We want the actual object, your cube design, to pop out. Okay, so what you'll have, if you can see, is I have a border inside of the exterior border. And this is where you're going to start drawing. We're going to start actually drawing out our front view. We're going to use some of the information from our front view, transfer it to the top view. Okay, so as you're looking at your cube design, if this were my project, I would look at the front view here, right? The most interesting view is going to be on the bottom left. So I'm going to pop this off so we can look at this as an example. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this to the front view so you see it. So my front view, I'm going to measure my total width and my total height of the object, right? Because it's sitting like that. So I'm going to do height and width. The total height and width is 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. So the first thing you want to do is make a 3 3/4 inch block out. All of this is still done with a light pencil. And what we're going to do is we're going to take those lines and go all the way up and all the way over with them. So we can use our T-square to go vertically. This represents the outside edge. Alright, and then we can use our triangle and T-square to go horizontally. And since the paper is really long, you just got to kind of take your time, slide your triangle along, and be very neat and methodical. Okay, so the first thing we've done here is we've taken and we've blocked out the front view, right? In other words, this is the height, this is the width, and we know everything is going to live inside of here. So then from there on, you're going to go ahead and add in your front view. So you're going to measure in all these individual pieces, right? Because my front view is going to fit right in there, right? And as I move forward, my top view, I need to go ahead and block that out. So let's take a look at my top view. My top view, total width, we've already got. It's 3 3/4. But now we need depth, right? The depth is 2.5. So we're going to mark out 2.5 down both sides here. And that's going to tell us where the back of the top view is. Okay, so everything within that top view is going to fit right there inside that block. Now the next thing we're going to do is the side view. Well, if we were looking at the object like this, we have our front view, our top view. Now we're going to look at our side view. Our side view has the same depth, so it's 2.5 inches as well. And we can measure that accordingly. We get 2.5 inches. So that means you come over here to our side view section and you measure over 2.5 inches. And create a block out for your side view. So now I've got everything for the front view fits in that block. Everything for the top view fits in that block. Everything for the side view fits here. And any information that's going to be shared, we're going to connect with these lines, as you'll see here. So we're going to take these lines and we're going to project them up, specifically these edge lines, right? These two edges are, right, if we were looking at the top view, this edge meets that edge of the side view. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a very light projection line of the top view. Remember, all these lines are very light. In the next step, we're going to make the side view meet there. Okay, so now we've created a good block out for all of our views, and we've created the projection lines that will transfer from side to top view. This little area right here is called the folding plane. Okay, so in other words, anything that comes up here will hit a point and then transfer and go to the top view. Okay, so now we've got our views blocked out. It's time that we go ahead and finish our front view. So we're going to bring back our model. Alright, we've said this is going to be our front view here. So we're going to go ahead and measure out what that's going to look like. Well, each one of these cubes I have is 1 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and just start drawing out each of the cubes individually. That's going to be the easiest way to complete this. Notice I'm going to use a light pencil for every step so that when I come back later I can darken in what matters. Because everything is all similar size, so I can easily get the grid from my objects, my cubes. So you could even make a 1-inch grid inside of your shape if you'd like, inside of your block out. I'm just making a little grid inside of here. Now, if we take a look at this little block out I've made, it's a very reduced version of this shape here. Once you have an idea for the shape, you can come back with your darker pencil or your darker pen, and you can actually show the true shape. So for instance, on this one, I'm going to darken in the parts that show. All I'm doing is following the front of the view, using tools all the way. Alright, now let's draw the boundary edge. Okay, so that forms the basic outside. Now I need to show this popped out cube. To show that, I'm going to use a heavier pen or heavier marker. This could be a 4B, or it could be even heavier. It could be a 2B or 6B even. And you'll see how this begins to pop out. Now, when you look at that, you can actually see how this front view pops out. And that's our entire front view. Now, this was a simplified shape. Hopefully your design has a little more complexity to it. But now we're going to move to the top view. So we've looked here. Now we're going to fill in this portion. Well, once again, we can make our grid inside of here because I've made this out of the same similar sized cubes. So yours could be a 1-inch grid or whatever you choose. I'm going to go back to my light pencil. I'm going to make my marks to subdivide. I'm going to start laying out this top view as it's shown. Now, another key is you can use projection lines. For instance, these lines from the bottom or the front view can be projected upward very lightly, and those will actually continue and finish out your top view. You'll see here in a moment. So I've made another grid up here once again, and I just need to show these shapes darkened in. So I'm going to show this back edge and this front edge. There's my back edge. Now I'm going to draw in one, come back and over. Now I'm just darkening in the separations between the cubes, the steps in the structure, these steps. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to pop out this top cube the same way that I popped out this cube down here. So that's where you get your heavier marker, your heavier pen. And we create a bump out. And now that cube pops out. Now we're going to do the same thing for the side view. The side view looks like so. In other words, we can take all of our projection lines. We don't even need much more information, but from our top and our front view, and we'll project some lines over to get the missing view. So you'll see here. Let's do some projection lines of our edges. So I'm going to project each of these cubes here. Now showing all of this is like showing your work in math. You want to make sure not to miss any of this information. Okay. Now the trick here is we're going to take this middle point, this line here, we're going to transfer it over, and it's going to hit this folding plane and come down. So let's go ahead and do that. Now once it hits here, this point goes vertically down. So you bring your T-square back in. And we come down to show everything that's going to be the side view. Now, if we go back to what our shape looked like, right? This front, top, side is going to look like that. So let's go ahead and pretend like that's what our side's going to be. And we're going to darken in what's showing. This front face here, this face. Just darkening in all the cubed subdivisions where I have separate cubes, and then I'm going to show this cube popped out here. We're almost done. Okay, and then I need to pop out the cube that's closest to me, right? The cube that's closest to the camera right here. And now we've completed our multi-view of a basic cube assembly, right? This is a cube assembly sitting as such. So there's our front view, top view, and then our side view. Last thing you need to do is add in your titles. Don't freehand your titles. Put in a little guideline that is a straight line on the bottom of all your views. 1/4 inch tall that adds a description to say front view. Same for the top. Remember, every time you see me using a red pen, you should be drawing very, very lightly. Top view. And finally, our side view. Notice all these titles are in the same place and the same height. Now, you have a complete multi-view showing your front, top, and side view, a title block with 6-inch subdivisions, right? And then finally your drawing number, all appropriate.